Who isn't intrigued by the afterlife? What happens to us when we die? It doesn't matter what your beliefs are or whether you have ever picked up a Bible. We all have imaginings of places of light and dark, happiness and pain and suffering. We know what these things look and feel like in life, but we haven't a clue what they look like when we leave life on earth behind. Still, most of us will imagine hell as a place of fire, blood and rot. Dante is the must-read author for every schoolchild in Italy, much as Shakespeare is for us here. Dante tells the story of his journey through the three kingdoms of the underworld, purgatory and paradise, and he meets real people and strikes up conversations with them. The journey takes place over the Easter weekend in the Jubilee year of 1300. I never really loved Shakespeare in the way I was hooked by Dante, and I want to bring Dante to our shores so you can travel with him to the underworld. In Hell Unearthed, you will meet mythological monsters like the Minotaur, classical characters like Achilles, Ulysses and Calypso, Roman emperors and gladiators, as well as pop stars, football stars, princes and princesses, politicians, gangsters and actors from more modern times. Find out who they are and hear their stories. I will put the link to my blog and a Read It For Yourself link in the description below. Hell Unearthed is available for pre-order on Amazon now. This year we are celebrating 700 years since Dante died. Inferno is the most widely translated book after the Bible, but its readership is still relatively low, and that needs to change. Scenes from the Divine Comedy have been painted, sculpted, and retold and even made into a video game. I want to show you how relevant Dante's world and how relevant they are to the 20th century. Politicians still act in their own interest for the sake of power and ego. People still cheat on their spouses. They lie and deceive for sex or money, just as they did then. Societies see poverty-driven violence and crime, which erodes trust and unity, and countries are torn about by war. Those in positions of power are still prone to abuse their privileges. Think of Dominic Cummings or the deceitful GP Harold Shipman. One of the most interesting features in Dante's original work, and which I tried to bring out in my adaptation, is the concept that despite the ease which we label a person or their action as good or evil, often both traits are to be found in one. Take Horatio Nelson, for example. He was a naval captain who protected the British against the might of Napoleon, a true hero. And yet he cheated on his devoted life Fanny for the sexier Lady Emma Hamilton, and she bore him a son. One of Dante's characters, called Farinata degli Uberti, was a well-regarded leader in the Ghibelline faction in Florence. He was most famous for having allied with the Sienese during his exile, along with his Ghibelline supporters, and he destroyed the Florentine Guelphs at the Battle of Montaperti. He was on the other side of the political spectrum to Dante, and yet Dante admires his courage, leadership, and conviction in his beliefs. Dante has him judged for heresy in the afterlife, in line with outdated medieval law, whereas I take him down for violence in Hell Unearthed. Dante asks us to reflect on what it is to be human. How do our behaviours affect ourselves and other people? How can we live our life well, and what are the effects of bad or harmful choices? These questions are core to human experience and will always be relevant. People talk about Dante's religion and philosophy as core to his writing, but actually sociology and ethics are possibly the most central themes. Dante is desperate for national unity, peace and harmony. He wants a national form of governance which eradicates the small-minded and petty governance which existed in medieval Italy and resulted in jealous feuds and power struggles. He wanted overarching, enforceable national laws to bind societies together, harking back to the Roman Empire. But at the same time, he wanted people to be guided by a spiritual compass to help them steer a morally acceptable course. To achieve these goals, he shows us the importance of love, of helping our neighbours, and of pulling together for the good of society. We still see divided nations and the threat of war. We've seen the Holocaust, the slave trade, refugee crises, acts of terrorism, and civil wars across the globe. The result is poverty, displacement, and broken societies. You don't have to agree with Dante's messages, but you are asked to think about the question of how we live our life, the effects on those around us, and the implications for any life after death. I hope you will be uplifted by the themes of friendship, truth, and love, and be encouraged to stand up for your beliefs.